So Russell Crowe is in another Exorcist movie. I swear I think Crowe's doctor recommended that he get more exercise, and Crowe misheard him. That's the only reason I can come up with for Crowe to star in 2 of these types of films, soon to be 3, as it seems The Pope's Exorcist is going to be getting a sequel. But this one, The Exorcism, has some interesting facets worth exploring, and I'll do just that after this. The Exorcism is new in select theaters from Vertical Releasing. It's directed by Joshua John Miller and written by M.A. Fortin and Joshua John Miller. Russell Crowe plays actor Anthony Miller, who's attempting to revive his career after facing an almost career-ending bout with addiction and alcoholism. He's also trying to put his life together for his teenage daughter, Lee, played by Fear Street's Ryan Simpkins, who has found herself expelled from school. Anthony takes a lead role in a remake of what looks to be The Exorcist, though they never named the movie as such. In the film, they call it the Georgetown Project. But as Anthony gets further into the role, demons from his past reemerge and threaten not only the fate of the film, but the lives of himself and his daughter. I'm going to go into a little backstory before letting you know my thoughts on The Exorcism. It's directed by Joshua John Miller, the son of Jason Miller, who starred as Father Karras in the original Exorcist. The film was actually made before The Pope's Exorcist, but has been sitting on the shelf since it was filmed in 2019. So The Pope's Exorcist was released sooner. So really, this was Crowe's first stab at an Exorcist film. And though I don't know for sure, this film really feels like it was an attempt at an actual Exorcist reboot, as it has Kevin Williamson as a producer and references the original film in a very meta way, which is very much Williamson's style. All that makes The Exorcism, despite the very generic title, somewhat of a unicorn in this subgenre of Exorcist movies. But do these unique qualities equate to a movie worth seeing? In a word or two, sort of. It's frustrating because there are the makings of a really epic and unique horror film here. First off, the cinematography of The Exorcism is very, very cool. The way the scenes are lit make for a distinct separation between what's playing out on film, what's being dredged up from Anthony's troubled past, and what's happening in the real world. In the film being made in this movie, everyone is cold and blue, while warmer lights and tones lull the viewer into a sense of security in the scenes inside Anthony's home. There are also some wonderful set pieces as the movie set shows a cross-section of the home The Exorcism takes place in, almost an exact recreation of the house in The Exorcist. When filmed from a distance, it gives off that uncanny quality you felt in those miniature rooms from Hereditary. These little details and specific decisions on the way this film looks shows that someone making this film knows how to make a movie look good and creepy. The acting in the first 3/4 of the film is pretty good too. Ryan Simpkins is likable as Anthony's daughter Lee. She really embodies the life of a child of an addict who is filled with rage at their parents' self-destructive behavior, but loves him and enables him all the same because he's the only person in her world. Samantha Mathis has a small and unfortunately insignificant role in an if you blink you'll miss it performance. Sam Worthington is basically Sam Worthington, which means he's okay but fails to really stand out as a charismatic character. The real treat is seeing David Hyde Pierce play the priest who is assigned as a consultant for the film to make sure all of the churchly stuff is accurate. His snide humor that was so prevalent in Frasier is all over this role and often serves as a welcome tension reliever. But this is Russell Crowe's show, and he really proves that he's still got a lot of range in a role that the in-film director, played by Adam Goldberg, himself points out that the actor doesn't look like someone you would find in a horror movie. This is a line that might have rung true when the movie was being made, but since The Pope's Exorcism was released before it, I think that line might have been better off cut. Still, Crowe is playing this movie straight, at least the first 3/4 of it, as if it were a tense drama. Anthony is dealing with real issues: alcoholism, drug addiction, guilt over the loss of his wife, guilt over his absence from his daughter's life. and deep-seated trauma from his past involving his time in a Catholic school as a child. While there are some supernatural elements going on peppered throughout the beginning portion of The Exorcism, the strength in the first 3/4 of the film lies in Crowe's pained performance of a man who is desperately trying to redeem himself despite his own major faults. I wish those mature themes would have run all the way through the film. Unfortunately, the last act is an absolute mess. So much that I felt utterly confused as to what exactly was going on as the demons are jumping from one character to another, Crowe is being tossed all over the place, and of course the typical repeated chantings we've seen in all the other exorcism movies get vomited out sloppily all over the place. I don't know if there was a more subtle and nuanced ending to this one, and the producers wanted to punch it up with a wham-bang ending, sort of like what happened with The Exorcist III Legion, or maybe the filmmakers just really didn't know how to wrap things up. But the route they took is messy, confusing, hammily acted, and just a total misfire compared to the much more creepy, under-the-radar chills that build up to the last 15 minutes of this thing. I get what the movie was going for. I think Kevin Williamson might have handed out his influence a little too much with the cheeky meta-horror and self-referencing of the exorcism genre and the reported mishaps that happened while filming. But these are the clumsiest parts of the film. I also get that structurally, the writers sort of had the story play out the same way the original Exorcist did, with a lot of slow burns, small weirdness, and subtle imagery being used. The Exorcism even manages to toss in a few scenes of subliminal imagery, as was done in The Exorcist. Still, I feel the bombastic end served as a detriment to the Exorcism, while the build was much more natural in the original Exorcist. Again, as with my Exorcist remake review, it's unfair to compare The Exorcism with one of the best horror movies of all time, but if you're choosing to do an exorcism film, comparisons are going to be made no matter what. This film chooses to reference the original Exorcist numerous times through dialogue, through set recreations, through subtle nods like giving the lead the last name of Miller. All of these things call for The Exorcism to be compared to the big kahuna of possession flicks. And like many, many exorcism films before it, The Exorcism pales in comparison. But if only the film would have taken its own path. The first hour and few minutes are solid, referencing the original, but putting its own spin on it as it comes from the perspective of the priest rather than the beleaguered mother. Maybe there's a draft of the script that does just that, veering away from all the cliched readings from the Bible, repeated chants, floating beds, wind machines, and rumbling sounds. But it's all there in those final minutes, and it left me with a huge case of disappointment for what The Exorcism could have been. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. To live inside